and Earthlings, welcome to another edition of Still Alive. Just check in, Ronnie. Are you still alive?
I think I am. I felt myself all over, and it's all there.
Yeah, we'll keep that to yourself. Hello everyone. They're starting to pile in, as we say. Let's see who's in so far. Michael was first, and as always, likes to put a thing. Yes, yet again, we appear to have made it through another week, and we're, Ronnie?
We are still alive.
Still alive, yeah. Well, that's got to be your line. It's not mine.
Yes.
Yeah. So I wrote, it's a miracle that we are, which is good. And then Terry was the next one. Then we got Kev. Hi, evening all. Evening all.
Yeah, hi, Terry.
Remember Dixon of Dock Green, Ronnie?
Oh, yeah, evening all.
Yeah.
Hello. What's going on here then?
Yeah.
I had the police. I did a stall on Sunday for our local vegan group. It was like a local community event for sort of voluntary organisations, really, in one of the parks. And I had two police come up, and they took a load of vegan literature, to put in the staff room at the police station.
Oh, that's really
good. Hopefully, we'll get a load of local vegan police now.
Well,
yeah, they were very
interesting. When we were at Temple Bar Square, and we were there from 10 in the morning till 6 at night, and on a Thursday, and there was a McDonald's that opened there, which was quite controversial because it didn't really quite fit. You know, they weren't allowed to have all the gaudy red and yellow and all that kind of stuff. They had to make it a bit more classy and all this kind of stuff. But they were offering free burgers for the first week, and it's absolute chaos down there. There was people fighting, the people throwing stuff around. We were getting burgers thrown at us and stuff. And the McDonald's had loads and loads of heavies there, but there's also loads of guards as well. You know, the Irish police.
Yeah.
And I offered a female guard. I think we had some cupcake samples or something, and she said, "Oh no, I better not. I better not take them with my colleagues being able to see because." They make comments about my weight, and I thought, God, you know, patriarchy in the police office, you know, and so she was too nervous to take a free sample because of that. Not that she couldn't, you know, it's not as though I'm on duty, governor, kind of thing.
Yeah. But did she have a McDonald's though? Was she too scared to have a McDonald's?
Well, she wouldn't have anything, I don't think, because
because I said to these police, I said, "Are you allowed to take literature?" And they said, "Oh yeah." They said, you know, we're allowed to take stuff as long as it's not political. Well, you couldn't really get more political than this.
Everybody else doesn't know what veganism is all about. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so that's good. So hopefully that's going to convert a few police.
So we got Vegan Paul, Evening Vegans, last place away from Paul McCartney Court. So I'm not quite sure what that is, but I responded with Paul Macker said ... and so that we got no, please go away. So
yeah.
Jennifer says hello. Vegan Pundit is in the house. Who we get else? Graham's here. Hi, Graham.
Hi, everyone.
Andy's here.
Hi, Andy.
Not your mum, not your milk. Elliot is here. Michael, we've had. I think that might be everyone so far. Oh, Linda, there's a new one. Hello, Linda. How are you?
Hi, Linda.
Deb. Hello, Deb from the States.
Hi, Deb.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Look at that. Look at that. You see, you're not going to get.
Oh, we might have a little treat coming up for Jennifer later on.
Well, I was going to say I want to take you back, but I was going to say I want to take you backside, but we'll leave that for now. We might have an intermission which features that. Vegan postmortem. Yo, hello there. So right. So, Ronnie, you've come up with this idea, which at first I thought aye. What's he going to talk about here? And so what is it, and why is it essential? So first of all, what is it? In fact, we could have a competition. Kind of. What do you think Ronnie's getting at with C?
Yeah. Everyone put in the comments what they think CVO is. That'd be good.
Yeah.
And
keep it clean.
Get it right.
Keep it clean. Yeah. So because you could go anywhere with this one, couldn't you? Really, when you think about it. So
they'll get a framed picture of my hairy bum. Whoever wins. Whoever's first with it. First to get it right.
a corroded vegan orange.
Yeah, it kind of is quite similar to that, actually.
Yeah. Actually, Graham was telling me at the outreach on Sunday that if you say gullible really, really slowly, it sounds like orange. So that's interesting.
I'll have to try that later.
You will, yeah. You'll definitely have to try it. Yeah. So, well, I mean, if you've got a little competition run, you can't actually say what it is. So how are you going to say?
No. Well, we'll wait until we'll get a few. Let's get a few answers in,
okay.
And then we'll.
Maybe we can.
I'm just getting me a cup of tea.
Oh, look, he's left us already, people. Professionalism's gone out the window for a cup of tea, as usual.
That's it. I'm all right now. I've got my cuppa.
Right, constant vegan observation. Is that it, Ronnie?
No, he got one word right.
Oh yeah, constant. Great. It's not. That's not too bad of an idea, really.
Kate. Is it Kate J? Kate's got two words right.
Oh right. Compulsory outreach.
She's got two words right there.
Okay. And then we've got Linda, Conference of Vegan Organizations.
One word right.
Yeah, we've had a few of those. Concentrated vegan organizers.
That's us, isn't it? One word right again.
Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out one that might fit in with the bum theme, but I can't think of anything.
Terry's got two words right.
Okay.
And so's Elliot.
So nobody's got the first word then.
No one's got the first word. What does the C stand for? We don't want any rude answers.
Now this is good. I take it. I mean, I don't know actually for sure, but is that right or is that not right?
No. That well, it'd be good if we did have consistent vegan outreach, but it wasn't. That isn't. It isn't.
That's pretty good though, isn't it? So
constant vegan oppression. I wonder what that is.
Coming in July.
Oh,
okay. That's a bit cryptic. So Jennifer can't be bothered putting 3 words in anymore.
No, it's not compassionate.
Yeah.
Terry's put Croydon.
I know. Yeah. Well, he said Chicago before, so he's obviously just trying to think of anything beginning with C now. So it's getting a bit, Constantinople.
And even Coventry vegan outreach.
Coventry, yeah.
It used to be quite a lot of vegan outreach in Coventry. Coventry used to be quite a hive of animal rights activity at one time.
Yeah, well, it was a hotbed, wasn't it?
It was a hotbed of activism at once. Nancy Phipps was there, and obviously John Curtins from Coventry. I mean, it wasn't all vegan stuff. They did all sorts of stuff. Loads of stuff came out of Coventry at one time.
Indeed. Well, I mean, when Nancy was still alive, I did for my MA a kind of focus group at her place, and Neil Lee organised it. And I kind of said to everybody, right, you've got to imagine there's no such thing as the animal rights movement, or whatever you want to call it, the animal liberation movement, the animal advocacy movement. So let's start from the beginning and create what sociologists call an ideal type. So that's what we set about doing, but kind of going. I mean, it was quite interesting in the sense that you did get a lot of copy of what we've already got, which was interesting. But then again, it's a kind of like a template, I suppose. So Calling vegan organizers. Yeah, all of these are very
Well,
good.
it kind of could be. Yeah, in a sense, it kind of could be that, and that's kind of going to be sort of part of what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, here's Graham just spoiling it all now.
People are starting to get silly now. Graham's got no words right there.
I think we should probably move on. these very silly people. These very silly people. Now, again, let me remind everybody that as you have been, feel free to comment. We never charge anybody to get their comments on the screen, as you know. And anybody who's watching live, who is not watching on my YouTube, that's the best place to go if you want to see the comments. So if you comment on Facebook, we will be able to see it, but you won't be able to see everybody else's comments, which might be the reason they stay on Facebook, to be honest, given the quality of the comments running. So.
See, I think people have, as every city in the world beginning with C being named now in the communist vegan outreach. Yeah, if only. Yeah. Yeah, that's one of them. Low Ra.
Is it camp? What camp vegan outreach?
Camp vegan outreach
now. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, could give that a go. What I'll do is, all right. I'm gonna say I'd go to camp vegan outreach. Yeah, I'd go to camp vegan outreach as well. Yeah, definitely. What I'm going to do is I am going to say what it is, but I'm going to do a bit of a preamble first, and that is, just to keep people waiting.
Go on then.
Right, what it is,
people, hang on a second. If you're going to do a preamble, we'll have to have one of these. Right. Preamble away, Ron.
A preamble away. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's really important, obviously, that we achieve animal liberation. We're not going to do that while the vast majority of people don't believe in it. So we've got to educate, I'd say, at least a substantial minority of people to believe in animal liberation, to be opposed to speciesism, to be opposed to human supremacism, if we're ever going to get anywhere. And obviously, the way to do that is through educating people to become vegan. And we do that through vegan outreach. And one of the problems, as I've said many times before, we have with vegan outreach is it tends almost always to just take place in the center of big cities. People go to the center of big cities, do Cuba Truth, Earthlings, We the Free, although it's interesting to see that We the Free is starting to do some stuff in smaller places, which I think is encouraging.
Well, how are they organizing that? Are they encouraging people to take the equipment to
they're sort of recruiting people in those smaller places and helping them to get a group of people together, basically.
It's essentially the kind of AV thing. So do they have a sound system and all that kind of stuff?
I think the latest thing from what I saw them doing is the kind of where you watch a video and you get like a reward for watching a video. It's that one.
You mean like pay to view?
Like pay, be paid for viewing kind of thing. We'll be given something like a cake or something, vegan cake, viewing or something.
Well, Declan from Vegan Education on the Go. He did this kind of deal because we had a terrible time with animal equality, because we got 4 of their, the goggles, the virtual reality goggle things.
Yeah.
Are you still laughing at some of the things coming in?
I'm looking at, because it's we've got capitalist vegan outreach, which is probably.
Oh, yeah, put that on the screen before. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We've got Christian vegan outreach.
Corrupt vegan. Now we're getting desperate.
We've got corrupt cake vegan outreach. Oh, yeah, that probably be extremely.
Whose idea was it to get these silly beggars to put this up on the screen?
Cake vegan outreach a little bit just now, aren't we? With
people
offering, people offering people a cake if they watch
the
video.
So we got 4 of these virtual reality goggles, right? And at first they were really, really useful because they it was the 360 degree thing, so you can look up and see the roof, down and see the floor and the pigs, and then there was pigs, cows, I think, and chickens, I believe. And but we had a trouble because somebody nicked one of the sets, when somebody wasn't looking, they had their back turned and somebody ran off with it. And so Declan reported it to Animal Equality, and they went absolutely spare with us, saying, you're totally responsible, and you're terrible people and all that. And we were going, hang on a minute, we're out in Dublin 3 times a week over 11 hours, and because they were saying, well, other groups that they've had these things for months and they've never lost one. So yeah, but that's because they go out about every 10 weeks or something, right?
Yeah.
And we were trying to get them to understand what kind of constant kind of outreach was like.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have it, and they said, okay, we want you to send them back. And they insisted on sending them back with this kind of really expensive kind of courier kind of service. So Declan told them where to go, and then said, look, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll buy the goddamn things off you. And so that's what we did in the end. We bought the 3 that was remaining off them. But I think they wanted 500 quid each, I think. For the,
We had a pair of them, but we sent them back because we were finding at the time we were doing
so that's this coming true, see?
Capitalist vegan, yeah. At the time we were doing, sort of food giveaway stuff as well, and we found that the food was a lot more popular with people than the goggles, and not many people were using the goggles.
What we found with the goggles was that at first people were shocked. In fact, we even had because we ended up on national TV with them, and this guy was going, "Oh, this is really effective," and all that. The journalist. But what we found with the kids is that as VCR goggles got more and more popular in terms of gaming, that people kind of lost their awe, because some people were going, wow, this is amazing looking around, right? Yeah. And then eventually it was kind of, I've got one of those at home type of thing. And they were doing things like, kicking out, pretending to kick out the pigs and this kind of stuff. It's almost as though the entire kind of, surprise and awe factor was gone, because they were just kind of so used to having their own ones. But we've tried to bring them back. We've only managed to get one going.
Yeah.
But they're still having that good effect again now. So I don't know what's happened in the meantime, but it has anyway. So that's good.
Yeah. In actual fact, the person who said communist vegan outreach is the closest. They're the closest because what we need to do is we need to get vegan outreach everywhere, not just in the centre of big cities. We need to have it in the suburbs of cities. We need to have it in small cities. We need to have it in towns, even in villages. We need to educate local communities about veganism. And so what I'm talking about is community vegan outreach. The C is for community vegan outreach. And I see
I imagine there's people all over the world now falling off their seats with surprise that you said that one.
But no one said it, did they? Terry just...
Well, no, but they didn't want to spoil your dada, did they?
Yeah, Terry. I think Terry got it. I think Terry... We have to send the cupcakes to Terry, I think.
Okay, let's have a round of applause for Terry.
And to me, that's that's a really, really important piece that's missing from the whole jigsaw vegan education. I mean, we've got we've got videos on YouTube. We've got people doing events in the cities. We've had adverts on the telly. We've got the posters as well. Adverts on buses.
We missed it. We can't let this go, Ronnie. We missed Debbie. Debbie said it first, apparently.
Oh, did she? Oh, yeah. Sorry, we must have missed it.
Round of applause for Deb. Yeah.
I've missed that in the comments. I haven't been.
Yeah, I know.
And properly. Yeah. Well done, Deb. Yes. And so it's like, it's really vital that we that vegans are encouraged to instigate and carry out outreach in their own areas. In the areas where they actually live. We've got a lot of. I mean, obviously the overriding problem is that we have so many vegans who aren't active in any way in really going out and spreading the vegan message. So they need to be encouraged to do so. But I think with community vegan outreach will can do that, can encourage more vegans to be active, because I think there are a lot of vegans that would do stuff in their local communities who wouldn't travel to a big city to take part in AV, Cuba Truth, or anything like that. And so I think it does offer a potential for involving more vegans in outreach, and certainly that's kind of what we found locally.
Counterintuitive a bit though, Ronnie, isn't it? The fact that if you're in town, you're with a lot of people. If you're in your own little area, there's not many.
Well, I think no. I mean, you would normally be talking about smaller groups of people in a local area doing stuff. But I think we've got to understand that a small group of people can achieve a hell of a lot. And I know for some people there's an attraction for doing stuff in big groups somehow. It's not something that's necessarily ever appealed to me, but I understand that it's a lot of humans. They kind of, there's a safety in numbers thing, like to do a thing in like kind of in a big group of people. But if ever we're really going to kind of spread the vegan message everywhere, we've got to kind of be prepared to do stuff in smaller groups, and even be prepared to do stuff on our own. There's a hell of a lot of vegan outreach that a person can do.
But how kind of confident would you feel doing it with a couple of people in a farming community, Ronnie?
Well, I may not feel comfortable at all doing it in the farming community. I mean, it kind of depends. If someone's in a farming community, they're probably living in a very small place, maybe in a small village or something like that. I mean, I live in a village, but it's quite a cosmopolitan village. It didn't used to be. It's changed over time, and most of the people that live here kind of commute to the nearest city to work and stuff like that. It's kind of a little bit of a commuter village, really. It's kind of, and it's become a lot more cosmopolitan. People have moved here from different places, whereas at one time, people living here were people that were born here and lived here all their life. So it's kind of a bit, I'm not sure what the right word is not very progressive. But I appreciate there are other small kind of villages and stuff where.
Look at this, Ronnie. This is Andy looking ahead for in the show.
That's that. That's right. And I could talk a little bit about the wooden spoon or the stick or whatever later. I can appreciate that somebody might live in a rural community where it might be difficult for them to do outreach there. But what I'd say to people like that is go to your nearest town. Go a few miles to your nearest town and and do it there. If it's difficult for you to do it right in your around where you live. In fact, that's kind of how I started. I mean, how I kind of got involved in vegan outreach. I'd always done vegan outreach to some extent, but how I kind of really got involved with it was that I kind of Louise and I were running a campaign against the ground racing industry. We did that for 13 years. And then it was around about kind of, I don't know what it would have been about. That would have been at 13, 14 years ago. I kind of handed that over to other people for various reasons. And one of the reasons was because I wanted to get involved in vegan outreach, because I thought, okay, it's great campaigning against the dog racing industry, but that's, only a tiny area of the oppression of other animals compared with everything. And
if you go back even further, Ronnie, you were actually pretty nervous about engaging the public at one time, weren't you?
Well, yes, I mean, I was. I mean, because all I'd ever done really was direct action, either in Hunt Sabs or in the ALF, and that there was no engagement with the public with those things at all. It was just like, directly against the people that were oppressing other animals. And so when I came out of jail in 92, after I'd done my final sentence, I thought, right, okay, I'm not going to be able to carry on with what I'd done previously. So, and I still want to do stuff to promote animal liberation. So what can I do? And I thought about, I knew a few people that did street stalls, and I thought, yeah, that's a way of doing it. But I was actually very nervous because I'd never really communicated with the public. I never interacted with the public. I never wanted to interact with the public.
Yeah, so I mean, the reason I brought that up, Ronnie, is the fact that you then know why people might be.
Yeah, so then no, but you see, what I did was I I went along with some other people that did street stalls. I joined them and I helped them, and I started off just pretty like observing what they were doing and just helping them a little bit. And then I got confidence myself to do it. And I actually ended up, for quite a few years, I did street stalls just on my own. I just would go on my own and do them. I was like one of these one-person bands, you know. I'd board strapped to my table in one hand. I had a bag over my shoulder. I had some big boards in the other arm, and I was kind of be trundled along the street and to set up the stall. And I did that. I did that all over, you know, the West Midlands area of England. And at the time, it was campaigning to protect whales and dolphins. But whenever I gave people leaflets, I always gave them leaflets about veganism as well. So I combined vegan outreach with that. But then I kind of, as I said, you know, after I'd finished being involved in the Greyhound campaign, I kind of wanted to get a lot more involved in outreach, because I felt that was the really, you know, the reason why all these things go on, the reason why, you know, greyhounds are exploited, and you know, and all the animals that are pressed and exploited by humans, is fundamental reason for that is speciesism, and the challenge to that is veganism, is vegan education. And so I kind of wanted to get involved in outreach, and what I did was I kind of got involved in my nearest, you know, active vegan group, which wasn't where I live. It was in Wolverhampton, which is probably about 15 miles away. That was the nearest place where there was a group. I got involved with them, and there was a guy in that group that was kind of very keen to get them doing more, but you know, he was finding difficulty getting enough help from the other people in the group. And when I joined, I kind of teamed up with him, and we got a lot of stuff going. You know, street stalls and stalls at community events, stalls in the shopping malls, and stuff like that. We got a lot of stuff going. And then I kind of, you know, once I kind of got into that, and I kind of learnt the ropes of that, I thought, well, you know, I live in an area where there are 100,000 people altogether. If you combine we've got 3 towns that are very close together, and we've got some villages around. And I thought, well, you know, why am I going 15 miles to do vegan outreach when, you know, I can do it in my own community? So I decided to set up a vegan group locally. What I did first of all was set it up on Facebook, and then we started off by doing a stall in one of our local town centres. You probably got a picture of that, Roger, have you? The badger stall.
We do. Do you want it up now?
Yeah, put that up. Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Well, actually, it's coming up to past. I wonder whether we need to go for a bum interval, perhaps. So, what do you think, people? Now, the only thing I can say about this, right, is that if you've got, like, you know, companion animals or any children with you under the age of 75, or anybody with a nervous disposition, you need
turn away now.
Yeah, you need to be careful here, because this gets a bit rough. Now, what I did was I kind of give you a brief glimpse, just so it'll knock the complete shock out of it, and then you'll see it. So let's hear it, people, for Ronnie's bum. Well, that wasn't enough. We'll have to do that one again, I think. It was so good.
There we go. That isn't my bum now. That was my bum 19 years ago. That's a 19-year-old bum, that is, which is probably why it's so hairy.
Are you sure that wasn't you just taking a still from a David Attenborough documentary? No.
What about some other primates rather than myself?
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost hairy enough, isn't it? I mean, basically, people probably, I mean, the reason why this has all come up, we talked about it on our last show, didn't we? I don't know how we got to talking about it, but it was
Jennifer says, "Oh my God."
I'd made a birthday card,
oh my goodness,
a joke birthday card for my sister's birthday about me kind of talking out my arse and wishing her a happy birthday. And so
people want to know if you're going to put that as your Facebook profile.
I could do, couldn't I? Well, I've got it as my I've got it as my profile pic on Grindr, actually. No, I might. Yeah, that's a good idea. Put it as my pick on Facebook. I might consider that. No, what happened was I made this card for my sister for her birthday because I forgot to buy her one, and I took that picture to put on it. And she wouldn't believe it was my bum because she said, "That's not your bum. It's too hairy to be your bum." So I invented a story that I paid a bloke over the park to take a picture of his bum. And she believed it because she couldn't believe it was mine. But that is 19 years old, that photo.
Right. I couldn't believe it's not bum. Okay, so
so that was a useful diversion, wasn't it? That was like
so that's the picture you were talking about.
This is a more sensible picture now, no bums involved. Yeah, I'm the one that dressed as a badger. I couldn't see a thing because the eyes were in the wrong place. And
it's because you had a council order that you had to hide your bum, right?
Yeah, I had to hide my bum. Yeah, my bum's inside the badger suit there.
Yeah.
I've got a badger bum. And the reason we started with that stall was that because it's obviously against the badger cull that's been going on in this country. Well, when you consider that stall was in I think that stall was in 2013. That's 10 years ago. I'll just look up on my phone because I've got a note of it.
Did you see
that? Yeah, it was in 2013.
Instant mathematical equation there.
So that's 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
That's 10 years ago. That is, and that's when our group. And shortly before this, I set up the Facebook group, and that was 10 years ago. And the reason we did that was because the badger cull is very closely connected to the dairy industry. It's dairy farmers that wanted badgers killed because of this made up thing that they spread TB to cows, and the government duly obliged by giving permits for, and it's still going on. 10 years later, they're still killing the badgers. But there's a close connection with the dairy industry, so we had leaflets to do with that. Kind of encourage people to go vegan. Go vegan. Not only will you, will that protect cows, but it also will protect badgers as well because they're being killed because the dairy industry. So that's what we did. And we had a few vegans. We didn't know any other local vegans apart from ourselves, but we did have a few local vegans come up to the stall, and we kind of recruited them into the group, and that's kind of how it started.
Are you one of the people who use petitions just to get people over? You don't.
Yeah. I mean, we had a petition. We had stuff about how people could get actively involved, in campaigning against the cull, going out in the, at night and trying to stop the shooters and that. Which I did a little bit of that myself back in the day. But yeah, I think a petition. You see, the thing is, if you're doing a stall, you've got to have a reason why people would come up to the stall. There's got to be a reason why people would come up. So, in other words, you can, foods are really good. Giving people, food samples is a really good one. Giving them what we do now, we have like free vegan recipe booklets that we advertise that people come up and get, or sign a petition. It's just something that gives. It's very, very difficult to get these petitions to have any effects, but they're a good way of attracting people to the stall because it gives people.
Yeah, they do tend to have that effect.
Yeah, and then you give people information. When
that banner's been around for ages, and it's interesting because the language is not great, is it? This I've never.
I think the thing is our wildlife, and I think the thing with the word our doesn't necessarily imply ownership. I mean, those possessive pronouns like our, my, your. Like if I say my sister, doesn't mean I own my sister. If I say my town, it doesn't mean I own that town. So they don't necessarily imply ownership.
So how would you read it then?
Hands off the wildlife that's around us, the wildlife that's in this country, so to speak. That's kind of how I wouldn't read it like we own those animals.
Okay, fair enough. But I've never liked it for that very reason.
Yeah, I know that that a major use of those pronouns is to do with ownership, but they don't necessarily imply that.
So should we move on?
Yep. Yeah. Now you see, I mean, basically, kind of these are a couple of stalls that we've done. There's one in the street, and the other one is at a like a dog rescue fundraising event was in one of the local parks. and basically what happened was, once we'd kind of got we got a few people in the group, we kind of started kind of having regular meetings. We got together, we sort of formed an organisers group at one time, and at one time that we had 12 people on that, and so we kind of had we had a few volunteers to do these things. The picture on the right is like pre-COVID, and at the time we had kind of more volunteers then, and we were in a situation then where we were able to give away food samples. And so you can see on that stall on the right, there are food samples which were given to people, which are very popular, attract people to the stall. The one on the left, we haven't got food samples, but you can see with that placard, we're giving away free recipe booklets to people. My friend there, she's holding one of the recipe booklets that we give to people. And
that's the animal aid one you like, isn't it?
One, yeah, yes. But what we always do is we've got a leaflet about our own group that we put inside that booklet, and also one of our local. We've got this local shop. It's called the Grape Tree. I mean, people in the UK, they may well have one in their local town, and they're very happy to have those booklets on there, kind of on the counter for people to take, or in this. As you go out the shop, they've got this sort of table which has got like lots of free information on, and they put it on the table, and they're ever so popular. I have to take them in. I have to take them in every week to top up what they've got. They're really popular with people, because obviously those people that go into that shop, because it sells nuts and nuts and grains and stuff like that. So people going in there probably more likely to be.
I suppose that's interesting you said that. I suppose that's one type of outreach that is not as prevalent now, because, like, for example, we could always put our leaflets in, well, universities and polys, but also local health food shops, whole food shops in particular, and also the radical bookshops. That's all kind of gone by the by now, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there are fewer places where you can put them, but certainly I would say that that anyone, certainly in the UK, if they got like a grape tree, a shop in their local town, get some of those booklets from Animal Aid. You get in touch with Animal Aid, they'll send them for nothing, and then ask if the Grape Tree will put that on their on their counter, on their information table. Because we used to have another Grape Tree locally that unfortunately kind of closed down, and they used to have them as well. Both of them used to have the.
Is that a whole food shop then?
They sell nuts and seeds and grains and dried fruit, that kind of thing.
So Whole Foods.
Yeah, it's kind of it's whole food, yeah, basically.
Yeah, thanks, Ron.
I mean, not in the old, because I remember the old whole food shops we used to have were kind of better, because they'd have everything in big sacks, wouldn't they? And you could put it in a paper bag. Unfortunately, this stuff's all kind of it's pre-wrapped in there. But yeah, they are a whole food shop, yeah, in that sense, yeah.
You had to get rid of the sacks, because you used to dive into them, I remember. So that's one.
yeah. But that was and these are like other the one on the left.
There's quite a lot of sampling there on the right one.
These are all in the Times, like, because I'll kind of talk a bit of kind of what's happened with our group, because it's kind of, you know, I think there's kind of lessons to be learned with how you can kind of sustain a local group through good times and bad, really, as well. And you know, these both, you know, sort of pre-COVID, when we kind of had more volunteers. And the one on the left actually is that's at a school open day. What basically what some of the local schools do, they kind of have these kind of eco events, and it's like an after school event, and it's kind of timed for when the parents come to pick the children up. And this was like a primary school. And
is that mum and son, do you think?
Yeah, that's mum and son. But there's also
we talked about the Bland family. I think this is the
son
Intense,
and
the Intense family. I think this
smaller
one,
child, and there'd be the grandparents come, because you'd have things like some of the children would have grown, you know, their own plants and brought them along, and they had stalls there from, you know, sort of local environmental organisations, and then there'd be maybe some of the children would have drawn pictures of different animals, birds and other animals like that, as well. So it was a combination of activities the children had done with stalls from, you know, local organisations, and we did stalls at several of those. Really popular. It was really popular with the families, you know, the samples and the vegan information. That very keen to find out stuff. So that's that one.
Going back to the samples, Ronnie, you've got you got cheese there and other things, you know, with the
it tended to be dairy, really. It was like the cheese, you know, sort of what you would call the vegan cheese.
Yeah. Is that a vegan friendly custard there?
Plant milk's custard, yes. Yeah, it's custard, yeah.
How do you do the custard? Just let them.
We'd put it in. We put it in little. We had these little pots, little paper cups, little mini paper cups that we used to put it in, and they'd kind of.
But they've had to pour it onto something, wouldn't they?
Well, no, they could just sip it, just taste it. It's only a little bit. They could just drink a little bit custard to taste what it was like, and there'd be and sometimes we'd have some biscuits with like the kind of cream cheese type stuff as well. And I, you know, I'd always make sure that I always used to be the booklet person that, you know, the others would kind of serve the food out, but I'd make sure that everyone had a booklet, you know, went away with a booklet. And the one on the that was a school event. The one on the right was at a local health fair, where we kind of, because with the school event, you see, because that came under kind of the local, you know, we're part of a local sort of Green Alliance and an alliance of environmental groups. We made sure that we were part of that because it opened doors. It means that we were able to have stores, so we were kind of found out about local events concerned with protecting the environment. And of course, there's a kind of link with veganism there, obviously. And so that's how we.
So you got the access by being part of that alliance or something, right?
Kind of, yes. Yeah. Okay.
Because it's notorious. Getting access to schools is really difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, because I mean. When you do an event at a school, the checks, I mean, they look at you really carefully to make sure you're not like Jimmy Savile or Rolf Harris, obviously. When you go in and you have to fill in the form, it's like it's harder to get into schools than I found it is to get into prison to visit people, to be honest, sometimes. And I can.
How do they do a check about Jimmy Savile and Rolf Harris? They check if you've got a tracksuit on or a wobble board. Right?
That's right. Yeah. If you've got a didgeridoo, they're very wary of that. The one on the right is a local health fair, and so we got in there about like kind of, you know, about the healthy eating, you know, because what you do is because like certainly the vegan diet has got all these aspects, you know, it's got an environmental, you know, it's better for the environment, isn't it? And it can be better for health as well. I mean, it's certainly done properly, it's the healthiest diet of all. And so you've got all these strands connected with the vegan
Yeah,
diet.
so
And then
you kind of align, that
we
part of
align
veganism
what
with
we
that.
say to the
Yeah.
people, what we say to them aligns with like how we got into in the health event. Is say that we want to come and promote healthy, healthy eating, the health benefits of a vegan diet. And they say, oh, brilliant, yeah, come along and take part. And
Do
so
you not get any pushback, Ronnie? Like the cowspiracy type thing about, oh well, that's got nothing to do with it. The best thing to do is just have shorter showers and this kind of stuff. I mean, do you?
No, to be quite honest, not really. No. I mean, there's a kind of a lot of interest in in all aspects, really. I mean, the thing is, once you're in there, you can actually promote ethical veganism. You can promote, you can let people know what happens to the animals. And it's interesting in that left, in the photo on the left, Sammy, one of our volunteers there. What she's holding is one of those. Is the a thing called a weaner, and it's what they put on. They kind of stick that to a calf's nose, and it's got the spikes, and so it prevents the calf from suckling from the cow, so that they can steal the milk from the cow that's meant for the calf. And she's actually explaining to those people what that is, and we'd have that on our stalls to show people.
Yeah, that's the red plastic thing. Because normally they're yellow, aren't they?
They can be, and they can be metal as well. You do get metal ones as well.
Yeah, we've got one in Ireland. It's the worst one I've ever seen. It's galvanized iron, right? And it's not just like, because these have got kind of little nodules on them. These ones, the metal ones, have got spikes on them. It's a really vicious.
Oh yes, the metal one's much more vicious, but people are really shocked even at the plastic one. And
that's
you can
right.
see we've also got that on the other stall.
Especially when you show them the bit where it fits to the nose and everything, they think.
They're kind of horrified. Yeah. And we have a little poster. You can probably just about see that in the picture on the right. It says, "Can you guess what this is used to take babies from their mothers? Can you guess what it is?" I think that's what it says. So that was that one, the right health. And you see, what I'm kind of showing people here is like people's view of like what vegan outreach is often very really sort of one dimensional. It's kind of, it's just like, Cuba Truth in the center of a big city, or one of the other, one of these other kind of global organizations, something done as part of their setup in the center of a big city, holding screens or whatever. And that's kind of what people think vegan outreach is. But like it can be loads of other things apart from that. And I think in a kind of, in a non-city area, where you're dealing with an area like, where I am, we've got one medium-sized town and two small towns and a few villages. In that kind of area, that in a sense, other types of outreach probably more appropriate. And there's all sorts of stuff you can do. There's all sorts of stuff that you can do, like we do stuff in the street, as there was a previous picture of that. But there's loads of stuff at community events that you can do, like there's in a school, there's at health fair. It doesn't have to be in the street, and sometimes it's kind
okay.
of...
Well, let's ask you a strategist question, because there would be vegan strategists in the world who would tell you that the worst thing you could do when approaching a school or a community center is use the V word. But you presumably have not found any problem with it.
No, not at all. No, they knew who we were. They knew we were Wild Forest Vegans, and they were quite happy for us to go along. It wasn't a problem at all.
It's just that, I mean, one of the things that we might be doing separately to this is looking at whether veganism as a scare word has come back. And so for people who are kind of relatively new to the movement, I mean, vegan as a scare word was a real issue about 15 years ago. In fact, in the 1990s, Vegan Outreach, the organization, they said that they regretted calling themselves that, because it scared people away, particularly people who wouldn't give them any money and stuff. And so you ended up with all these strategists telling people that the best way to be vegan is not actually to be vegan and not mention the word vegan, right? And so it's kind of weird, really, because it seems as though there's a bit of a rise again, this kind of feeling.
Yeah, but it's very dangerous, because in a situation where you want far more people to do vegan outreach, far more people to organise and instigate vegan outreach, the very worst thing you can do to deter people from doing that and give people an excuse not to do that is to say that veganism is a scare word. It's totally the opposite to what we want, and totally counterproductive to what we need.
Well, so we might be covering that, because it seems to be an issue again, and we're getting the most worrying thing, I think, and Andy's picked up on this, as we know, is the fact that you're getting a lot of relatively new vegans who are kind of calling themselves minimalist vegan and not abolitionist vegan, and we're not extreme. It's all kind of, they're feeding into this thing about, oh, well, there's a kind of aggressive way of doing it, and there's a nice way of doing it, and this kind of stuff, right?
That's it. I mean, being aggressive with it is totally counterproductive, and we're not aggressive, but we're certainly not frightened to mention the word vegan and talk about veganism. There's a question from Deb about, did we get pushback for showing the wiener?
That's right.
Well, no. I mean, they didn't know we were showing the wiener. We just had it on the table, and no, we didn't get anyone come round and say anything at all. No,
you got all the kids to wear it for 20 minutes and walk around.
Yeah, so they couldn't suckle off their mothers. Yeah, they were. People were kind of horrified, because obviously they don't know that, and it kind of does. It does really bring it home. Yeah,
but really. Ronnie, I think Deb's getting to the fact that it's so horrifying when you explain what it's all about, that could be used as a kind of, oh, I didn't come to have my child upset.
No, they weren't. No, that kind of wasn't the that wasn't the reaction at all. No, we didn't get that at all. I'm not saying that you would never ever get that, but we certainly didn't.
No, indeed. Good morning, and good morning back to you.
Good evening here.
Right, shall we move on, Ronnie?
Yes.
Back out in the open.
That's a very recent event. That's we had our local environmental umbrella group, Local Green Alliance. They held a local. It was 2 week long. It was a local sustainability festival where there were lots of different events, and it launched with a big event in one of the local park, like a family fun day type thing, and that was a stall that we held there. And you see, one interesting thing to note is it's like all this stuff on the stall, that's all homemade. I mean, it probably looks good. You're looking at it, think, oh, that looks pretty professional, but that's all homemade. I made all that. I printed that all out on my printer. Where you see those big posters, they're actually made up of, they're like A1 size posters, but they're made up of A4 sheets, kind of pieced together. You can get free programs that will do that.
That's right. Yeah, there's a bit of mythology, right, that people are resistant to the more kind of amateur looking things, and we've always had things on purpose on the VIP thing, even going back to the 70s and 80s, the zine style, which are almost deliberately amateurist, and yet people love them, so it's a bit of a myth. So sometimes they'd take the Go Vegan World stuff, and then they'd take the other stuff, and they didn't seem to go, oh, can't be looking at that because it's not good enough or something,
No. The only poster that's not made by us is the one on the very right hand side on the banner. That's one from Viva. That's like a kind of more environmental one from Viva, because it was like a sort of part of an environmental week. But a lot of the information on the stall was about the kind of, about what happens to the animals in farms and stuff. It wasn't
right. A bit of a warning for the next few, I think, because Ronnie seems to have trained all the volunteers in the art of cheesy grins.
Yeah.
You'll see a few.
Yeah, because the one on the left, that was a stall I did on just this Saturday past, and it was at a local carnival. Because what they do at the local carnivals, they have an event in a local park, and then the carnival.
And that's your famous gazebo that's lasted for years.
And that's the famous gazebo that cost 20 quid from Argus, that gazebo, about 7 or 8 years ago, and it's kind of miraculously lasted. I thought it was going to be destroyed on Sunday. The event I did on Sunday, because I did 2 stalls last weekend, one on Saturday. This was a Saturday stall. I did one on the Sunday, and on the Sunday it was quite windy, and the thing, I thought the thing was going to take off at one time. I managed to save it.
Well, what would you do if it started raining? You'd move all that thing to the middle, would you?
Yeah, yes. And I think if there was kind of forecast of rain, then I'd start off with it in the middle anyway. But it's better to be more at the front because it's easier for people to see if possible. And so that was and that was like a local carnival, and it was actually if you're a voluntary organisation or a charity, it was actually free to have a stall there, so that was good.
Used to work really well in Temple Bar, you know, because we've got a weatherproof. Well, we've got 2 weatherproof gazebos, and in the end, you end up with 6 meters by 3. But because they're weatherproof, not just showerproof, you could pull the tables to the back so people could come up underneath. Out of the rain, you know. So it's really useful in Ireland, obviously.
I mean, obviously, I think the problem what I found with gazebos. So we had a push-up gazebo and it got wrecked in no time, and it cost about 60 quid for this push-up gazebo. And so I think, you know, my tip to people for getting to gazebos, either get an expensive, really sturdy push-up one, or get a cheap. That one's kind of self-assembly. It's one of those where all the bits are numbered and you push them all together, and obviously it takes longer than push-up one. But they're kind of a lot cheaper. And I'd say either go really cheap with one of those, or if you're going for a push-up one, you know, spend a good amount of money and get a sturdy one. If you do anything in the middle, it's not a good investment. The picture on the right was at a local community event. It was a fundraising event for a local charity to do with I think it was a charity that provides babies' clothes for people that aren't very well off. That's what it was in aid of, and we did a stall there, and it was a Christmas fair, which is why we got the Santa hats on. And once again, we had the food samples there.
Okay. Well, look, we're just coming up to an hour, so let's move along, shall we?
That's a stall at a local library for veganuary. There's 2 out of our 3 local libraries allow us to do stalls there. I mean, it helps.
So what's your argument about veganuary? Do you think it's good or what?
Yes, I think overall, yes. Yes, I mean, obviously there are some, I think, questionable aspects of it, but I think in general, if you're kind of talking about does it end up with with more people going vegan? Yes, I think the answer to that is yes.
Well, don't you think it kind of gives people the impression that veganism is a diet?
Well, there is that danger, but certainly when you kind of look through the veganuary website, there is stuff about the ethical aspects of it as well.
Yeah, sometimes that's quite hidden, though, don't you think?
It can be, but I think the thing is, it kind of because it's such a well-known thing now, it kind of gives the opportunity to do. You know, it was because it was veganuary, and in fact, we actually got invited because the person who kind of is kind of in charge of those 2 libraries is actually vegan herself. She actually invited us to do stalls for veganuary there's this library and another library where we did stalls, and it was because it was veganuary, because it was like a kind of, you know.
Well, I mean, for myself, I mean, I can understand it's obviously a seductive idea to piggyback on something that gets a lot of national press and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, if it was me, I think I'd be having big signs going, veganism is not a diet, you know, on a stall like this.
Well, the thing is, but you see, the information we gave people in connection with it was saying that anyway, if you see what I mean, that was saying that it's to do with the animals. So people were kind of attracted by the veganuary thing, but then we were giving them, you know, all sorts of other information. So that's the stall. But what we've kind of done, what we've started to do at the local libraries, because this was like, it's like a one-off stall on like one day. But what we started to do now, rather than do stalls, what we did this year was to have like month-long exhibitions. We provided stuff so that they could they had, leaflets about veganism, stuff like that, for the whole month on a stand, so that people had a whole month to take the stuff. So that's what we've kind of started doing now.
Yeah, very good.
It's just another example of all these different ways that people can promote veganism, other than just in the street. There's all these other ways of doing it. It doesn't have to be just street outreach.
And you don't get cold. So
well, no, you don't get cold. It's indoors, and particularly in the winter months, it kind of can be better. I mean, this was in January, so it probably wouldn't have been great on the street.
So we're on the hour, Ronnie. So this is for Georgie.
I'm surprised there's still so many people, watching.
Yeah, no, that's a bit shocking, isn't it? Okay, so
that, yeah.
I think moving on is the best thing we can do.
Yeah.
Here,
Now this is we haven't done this since the lockdown for a number of reasons, but prior to the lockdown, we did a number of stalls at one of our local Tesco's, where we were promoting their sort of plant-based products in terms of the cheese, the milk, the custards, and I think some of the other stuff they sell. We had chocolate buttons for children as well. And basically what was happening was Tesco were happy for us to do that. In fact, it was the Tesco community. They've got this person at Tesco called a community champion, and it's to facilitate that. They're kind of keen to have local organisations have stalls there, and it was actually she suggested it to one of our members. How about having a stall in our foyer? So we took them up on it. They gave us a bit of money to buy stuff from the store.
This is all stuff that they can go in and get from the store.
Well, basically, yeah, it does them a favour, doesn't it? Because promoting, promoting their products.
The thing that we've been doing since we're back on the street in Dublin, we've been doing the cheese samples again, and Graham's been bringing in the Aldi ones, which I'd never known before, and the Aldi ones seem to be very popular. Everybody seems to like it a lot, and it's obviously relatively cheap as well.
A lot of the supermarket own brand cheeses over here are made on Bute Island by Bute Island Foods,
right?
Who were taken over? Was it last year or the year before? They were taken over by a Canadian dairy company.
Yeah,
wanted to diversify.
Yeah, because we had that problem. I mean, we first of all had a deal with the people who were the kind of franchise for Violife. Then they get taken over by somebody, and then they switched to Bute Island, and then they got taken over, and so it was a bit of a shame. So we're not getting free vegan samples anymore. We're having to buy them ourselves for the first time.
That's right. Well, we had to buy those, but we were given money by Tesco, but it wasn't a lot. It was only about 15 quid. It ended up as. So we actually did put a bit of our own money into it, because you see, it's interesting enough, because it was we scratched their back and they scratch ours, so to speak, because they wanted us there. So obviously it's promoting Tesco's products. But you see, we were there to promote ethical veganism, really, and so we were giving people information about that. And you can also say in the middle of the table, we've got the wiener again. Even at Tesco, we had the wiener, and they didn't say anything. The manager just took a quick look at the stall, saw that we were promoting Tesco, said, "Oh, that looks brilliant," and then walked off and didn't really take any notice of the detail. So we had the wiener on that one as well. And once again, no one complained about that, and people were curious as to what it was.
That's pretty good, isn't it?
But the interesting thing, and this is one thing really, like I've said, that really, and that kind of picture of the people behind the Tesco's, the stall there, is kind of important for another reason, and that is that it's up to people really to use their own initiative to get these things going. And my message to anyone listening to this is obviously, if you're not vegan, go vegan. But I appreciate that our audience probably is pretty much exclusively vegan. And what I'd say, like if you're not a vegan, if you're a vegan but you're not an activist, it's like really, really important to get active. We need as many other people as possible to go vegan. You yourself are vegan because you care about what happens to other animals. That's going to carry on happening unless we get loads of other people to go vegan. So it's really important to get involved in outreach somehow and to become active. And kind of what I'd maybe advise them to do is maybe follow a similar path to what I followed. Is like, seek out your nearest local, your nearest activist vegan group and get involved with them and kind of help them, learn the ropes, learn about, doing stalls, talking to people and stuff like that. And then when you feel sufficiently confident, or if you're already an activist and you're already doing that and you're already going into the big cities and doing things, you're already an activist, or you become an activist, then think seriously about, how can you stimulate and organize activism in the area.
It's not that hard, really, is it? It's kind of,
no,
you almost like need a bit of brass neck, really.
It's really simple. You see, now there was no vegan group in my area, so I set up a Facebook group. You might find there's already, and Facebook is the best social media to do it because Facebook allows for groups. The other sort of social media platforms much more individualistic in their approach, but you can get groups on Facebook, and so it's probably the best way for best one to kind of organize a group. If there is a vegan group in your area, you might find that it's a non-activist group. There's people on there just talking about food and stuff. Join that and see if you can get other people active. And what I'd say is rather than try and get a meeting together of people and stuff like that to plan stuff, to not do it that way, to kind of do something that you can do just on your own and say, right, I'm doing this, and who's coming with me to do that? And certainly, one of the things that people can do on their own here in the UK is like delivering leaflets, is door dropping, or even perhaps distributing leaflets in the streets, just simple stuff like that. Do an event, say, I'm going to do this, and who's going to come with me? And that's the best way to do it, because if you try and get meetings to organize stuff and get people together, then very often nothing ever happens. You kind of have meetings about meetings about meetings. So it's important to kind of say, right, I'm doing this, who's coming with me? And see like who you can recruit. And it might only be one or two people to start with. But one or two people can do a lot more than just one person. You can start.
I remember a few thousand meetings about meetings about meetings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's no good. You got to, do the thing and do stuff, where if you're the only one there, it doesn't matter because you can still do it. Like even you could stand with the board in the street and have leaflets, and then because anyone coming up to you to take a leaflet, the board will filter out all the people that aren't really interested.
Have you ever thought of constructing a sandwich board just to walk around with?
Well, I haven't because because we do all sorts of other things, but certainly that is something that someone could do. Make a sandwich board.
Might be quite good.
I know people that do that. And they've got leaflets, and if anyone comes up to them, they'll give them, a leaflet because those people are obviously more interested. But that's the way to do it. You kind of, do it yourself. Don't wait around for other people. You'll attract the other people to you by kind of doing that, and like post on the group that's what you're doing, where you're going to be. And it could take a while, to build up a little team, a little group of activists. But that's kind of what kind of I did at the beginning.
There's a couple of things related to vegan friendly cheese I want you to comment on. First of all, we've got this is a jokey thing in the sense that Graham's here talking about the fact that they're always snaffling the cheese themselves when it's there, because we used to have this thing called Lord Jesus, the vegan cheese thief of Dublin town. And so Lord Jesus ended up having their own Facebook page. They did their own videos and everything. And so that's one way you can have kind of fun with that kind of idea.
Yeah.
And
Of course, there's the Muslim version of that, is it? No Hamid.
oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll believe you.
Yeah.
And then this one, which is more interesting, because I'm not saying anything against you there, Graham.
I think it kind of does taste better now. But you see, it was horrible. Way back. I mean, we used to make right back in the day. You're talking about the 1970s. We used to make our own vegan cheese out of like hard vegan margarine, which was around at the time, or hard margarine suitable for vegans. Actually made for the Jewish community. It was called Tomor, but it was suitable for vegans. And you'd kind of melt that, put some soya flour in, stir in a bit of yeast extract, let it set, and that was your vegan cheese. And to be honest, with a bit of onion and pickle, it was all right.
I thought it was great. It just
right,
had the color of diarrhea, but apart from that,
it kind of had a strange color. Sometimes it varied according to how much yeast extract you put in. Sometimes it would be like a kind of grey color.
That's your task for next week. You have to have this.
I can't. I'm not really sure about. I'm not really sure about kind of amounts, really. I just used to guess, really, with it.
Well, just do a few experiments during the week.
I could do. Well, Louise won't let me make it.
I know you're going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah. She said no. Why do you want to make that? We've got cheese.
Well,
yeah,
in my experience, and our experience in Dublin, right? Is this it's the vegetarians that have this attitude quite a lot, isn't it? Because
you see the thing is that what the mistake I think people make, and cheese is often the one, you know, like you get people come up to the store. I'll have to do the voice going, you know, none of the vegan cheese tastes like the real cheese. But first of all, the real cheese, you mean cheese what's been stolen from the calf, like real cheese. Not that I'd say that to them, of course, that's what I'm thinking in my head. And they go, well, you mean the dairy cheese? Yeah, the dairy cheese. No, and I think the problem is that, well, first of all, it's only a taste. You know, it's only a taste, isn't it? And like you kind of, you know, it's just for a taste. You know, all these animals being killed just for a taste, so that can never be justifiable anyway. But you see, the thing is that the mistake that people are making is they're trying to compare the vegan cheese to the dairy cheese. Instead of just treating the vegan cheese in its own right, you wouldn't say, oh, this hummus doesn't taste at all like dairy cheese, so I don't like it. You wouldn't say that, would you? Because like hummus is hummus, you don't expect it to taste like dairy cheese, right? And so you look at it in its own right. But what people need to do is look at the vegan cheese like that. You know, don't keep trying to compare it to the dairy cheese. You know, just look at it, treat it in its own right, and then you might find that it's okay. You know, to be honest.
Well, you know, I've said this before. I've got a theory that once the corporations get over the having to have a vegan version of everything, they will then start to just having vegan stuff or vegan friendly stuff, which we probably don't even know about now. So it's a new texture, a new taste.
You could create,
and that will be, oh, this is the vegan friendly stuff.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to resemble anything.
Well, because you see, the history of food is that stuff's been, that kind of, you know, new stuff has been invented. I mean, like, you know, lots of stuff has kind of been invented by people like experimenting with different food, and they've come up with new tastes and that. And I think one thing that kind of somebody that talks about, you know, that quite a bit is George Monbiot in his latest book Regenesis, which is like he's very opposed to animal farming, and he wants it all replaced by, you know, various other methods. And he advocates a method called bacterial fermentation for producing protein and oils. In other words, so that those wouldn't be grown using crops on the land, and so would, you know, obviously, you know, no animal farming to produce protein at all, but also
but you know what the pushback to that is going to be, don't you, Ronnie?
Well, it's bacteria.
Yeah, it's not natural.
Yeah, but we're covered in bacteria, and we wouldn't live if it wasn't for bacteria in our stomachs.
Yeah.
So that's just crazy. And he says, well, say that was the system we used, and somebody said, well, let's not use this bacterial fermentation. Let's get all these animals,
Yeah,
like
it's a great
selectively
idea
breed them,
reversing the thing.
slaughter
Yeah,
them.
that's
People
a
think,
great
well, you're a
idea.
lunatic,
Yeah.
for proposing that. So if you looked at it the other way around, it goes to show
Yeah.
how.
Well, the thing is, today at Midwell, about 12:30, I went on National Irish Radio today, a thing called News Talk. They were talking about so-called lab meat, and they wanted me to come on to give the kind of vegan kind of take on it. And everybody else was doing exactly that kind of, oh, it's not natural. But then you had some really horrible people like saying, well, I don't think it's really meat unless it used to have a pulse and all this kind of bullshit, And so there is that kind of, oh, it's not natural, it's
But
artificial,
it's certainly no less natural than kind of what we do to the animals that are farmed. And
yeah, absolutely. And I said anyway, it's superior because there's no rights violations in it, so that's the main thing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And the thing is, what he says about this bacterial fermentation is that using that you can create any taste you want. So we could create tastes, or taste could be created using that we never experienced before. And you could have a whole new cuisines arising out of it, as has happened in the past. With different things. I mean, there was I mentioned hummus just now, but there was a time when somebody made the first hummus and said, "Oh,
yeah,
blimey,
it's just like sometimes it's an accident, isn't it?"
Yeah, I've mashed up all these chickpeas and put a bit of garlic and lemon and sesame seeds in, and wow, look how wonderful this tastes. And then people went, "Oh, that's brilliant! I'll make that too." There was a time when somebody made the first hummus, whoever that wonderful person was that made the first hummus.
Well, sometimes you think when you know the kind of weird and wonderful ways that certain things are made, you're kind of thinking, who the heck came up with that?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I've invented stuff. I've invented, like, peanut butter and onion sandwiches, for instance. Has anyone, or even peanut butter and pickled onion sandwiches? Lovely. Should try it. I'd advise everyone to try it.
Come on, Mr. Lee. That's not inventing anything. That's just putting weird things together.
No, but it's like, yeah, but it's invented it's like a new dish, isn't it? Or a sandwich. But people wouldn't think of that. People go, "Oh, that's horrible. How could you put pickled onion with peanut butter?" But it's actually lovely.
Yeah, there's lots of things that you don't tend to think goes together. But
they go together. Yeah,
well, peanut butter and jam sandwiches, or
peanut butter
in North America, jelly bread sandwich. Was it jelly bread sandwich?
Yeah, that's really popular in the USA, isn't it? Peanut butter and jelly, as they say.
Yeah.
But
shall we move on?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to just what I wanted to do, just go back to that picture, because that's really important. Because what I was saying is about that people should think, right, I am going to do this locally, and I'm going to do this locally, and I'm going to carry on doing this locally, no matter who joins me, who doesn't join me. That's the attitude you've got to have as an instigator. And people that have that attitude are absolutely golden to our movement. That's what we need. People that say, I'm going to do this, who's with me? And I'm going to nevertheless do this in my local area. I will. The idea we've got to have is that we're going to veganize our local areas, right? We're going to veganize this area, where I live. If I can't do it right where I live because, like, there's a load of farmers or something, well, the nearest place to me that I can do it, right? And I'm going to do that. Whoever helps me and whoever doesn't help me, I'm going to do that. And if there are the good times where I get lots of people to come and help me, that's brilliant. If I don't get people to come and help me, I'm still going to carry on doing it. And that's very much kind of what I've experienced locally. Because if you take that picture of all those people behind that stall, none of those people apart from me are active in our group any longer, right? There's a couple of them have moved away. Two of them have moved away. One of them spends all their time looking after an elderly relative who's not well. One's got a job where he works all the time, and he for instance, is not free on a Saturday. And the other one's a counsellor, is a local counsellor whose time is taken up entirely by that. So they've all got different reasons for no longer being actively involved. And I'm the only one out of that group. So that's what can happen, right? it's made a difference. And you notice the more recent photos that you've shown, quite a lot of them is just me doing the stall. You know, I'll go and I'll set up the gazebo. Last weekend, it was just me. I did stall Saturday and Sunday.
Who takes a photograph?
Yeah, you've previously shown some of the photographs of me on my own, and that's just me on my own. I'll set up a gazebo, do everything.
Yeah, but I'm asking, Ronnie, if you're on your own, who takes a photograph?
I get someone else to take the photograph. You know, I you know, like somebody comes up and they're sympathetic. I said, "Oh, would you mind taking a photo of me?" And then they'll take a photo. You've got to make sure they look trustworthy, otherwise they might run off with the phone. So
yeah. I'm all on my own. Take a photograph.
I'm all on my own. All right. Oh, yeah, yeah. So no, I don't say it like that. I said, "Oh, take a photo of me."
Ronnie, look at this. The earliest mention of hummus dates back to Egypt in the 13th century. Well, you'll remember that, wouldn't you? Ronnie, you're old enough, aren't you?
Oh yeah. I remember when it was invented. Yeah, I've still got the hieroglyphs of the recipe.
Yeah, it's when they were building the pyramids.
That's it. Yeah, it was like a snack for the pyramid builders. But you see, that's what I'm saying. That like you've got to be ready for the peaks and troughs of other people. And I think one thing that's kind of really hits it. It's odd, really, because none of this really why those people aren't around anymore. None of it's to do with COVID. In actual fact, I mean, we have had a bit of fallout with COVID where people. We had people pre-COVID and the COVID thing sort of got them out of the habit, or I mean, one or two people have gone, one thing that COVID did was it got people into bloody conspiracy theories, and people disappear down the rabbit hole or whatever hole it is of conspiracy theories instead of doing vegan activism. And so I think that's been harmful. But I've known other groups where COVID has kind of hit them hard, where people have got out of the habit because,
I think that's the biggie. I think that's the one that really is a biggie. Well, you've got another volunteer for next time, Ronnie. So
yeah, that's great. Well, Andy's quite near to me actually, so that'd be good. I'll let you know, Andy. Well, in actual fact, it's next Saturday. We got a stall at another local carnival, one of the village carnivals next Saturday as part of an eco. There's an eco area.
I was going to ask you that, Ronnie, because how many times a year would you say this kind of thing happens?
Well, in terms of sort of outdoor events, once it gets into the kind of from kind of say halfway through May until end of August time, perhaps it can be every weekend. There's these outdoor events. It can be like I mean, we've got 3 dog rescues. They all do fundraising, these fun dog show things, fundraising things. We can have stalls at all of those. We've got 2 or 3 carnivals. Well, we've got several carnivals locally.
How does that fit with the vegan thing, the dog shows, Ronnie?
Well, these are rescues, and it is rescued dogs that tend to be featured. And it's like things like, they have this, they have various things, and I know there's a bit of a question mark over those things, but it's kind of done in a kind of quite a friendly way. It isn't like Crufts, so to speak, where you got all these dogs bred and it's highly competitive.
It is still a bit morally dodgy, though, isn't it?
Well, I kind of think,
the answer to that question is yes, Ronnie.
Well, I think in terms of, they're a dog rescue. They're trying to raise funds. They're kind of, it isn't that competitive. Like, it's done in a quite friendly spirit. It's not done in the sort of nasty spirit of a Crufts. I mean, I think the whole idea of dogs being kept by humans anyway is morally dodgy. That should never have happened in the first place. But you've got these organisations that are trying to pick up the pieces, the fallout from that, which has led to all these dogs being abandoned, and you've got these groups.
I mean, I know the argument. It just seems a little bit off. That's all.
Well, I think the thing is that it kind of gives us an opportunity to hold a stall at an event where you've got people that are at least sympathetic to some animals.
Yeah, this is what Andy's saying here.
And so perhaps it's easier.
It's kind of utilitarian a bit, isn't it? So,
Well, I think even the idea of doing a stall is utilitarian in the sense that you've got to drive somewhere. So you're kind of, there's a negative aspect to that. And what you do is you're weighing that up against the positive aspect of educating people to go vegan. So even that's a utilitarian calculation, isn't it?
It is indeed. Yeah, you're right.
And I think it is. Yeah, I think they're kind of sort of are questionable.
Not to mention things like ink for the posters and all that kind of stuff. And
well, yeah, it's like everything. Like you're weighing these things up. Like even leaflets. You're giving out a load of leaflets. Like, probably most of those will be discarded. You hope that people will recycle them properly, but they're going to be discarded. But you kind of think, well, if out of these like 100 leaflets I've given out, 1,000 leaflets, if one person goes vegan, then that's worth, that's kind of makes up for like all the wastage involved. I think that, and that's a utilitarian calculation as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and the printers love it too. Look at this. Come on, Josh, you can do better than that. So Graham is saying you can strawberry jam and chips. So I think we all ought to try this during the week.
I don't think I fancy strawberry jam and chips.
No,
really.
come on.
I'll tell you what's
try
nice
that, and we report back next week. See what we make of it.
What's nice on chips is mint sauce. Actually, mint sauce is nice on chips.
Yeah, but that's not radical enough. It's got.
It's not radical. It's not as radical as strawberry jam.
So come on, people! Everybody in the chat, you've got to commit to trying that at least once.
You've got to commit to really. Yeah, we haven't got any strawberry jam. We're not big jam people, really.
And Graham, if we only got half the audience because everybody's got food poisoning, it's down to you, mate. All right. So.
I've been poisoned by the strawberry jam. So what I'm saying is like, but I kind of, my attitude isn't, oh shit, all these people are no longer active in the group, so I'm just going to give up. I say, right, I'm going to carry on, and I've had to tailor. I do get help from other people occasionally. One of the previous ones showed a recent stall where there's 2 people helping me. But I've had to tailor like what I do. Like I don't do food samples because it's too much just for me on my own to do the food samples. So that's had to go. But nevertheless, having the free recipe booklet still attracts lots of people to the stall. So you kind of you have to cut your cloth according to.
Why can't you have a block of cheese on your stall?
Well, because I just think it would be too, because I'm busy trying to get people to take the booklets and that, and to kind of have to deal with the food and stuff like that. No, I just feel it'd just be too much.
See, in my experience, right, it's when you're actually cutting the cheese and putting it out and all that is when people you kind of get noticed.
Yeah, I mean, I might do, but I just feel I'd sooner keep it simple. To be quite honest, I never really dealt with food. It was always other people that dealt with it. It was never my thing. I think that might be why.
Well, you can branch out to a new area.
Yeah, I'll see. But I find offering the free recipe booklets, loads of people are interested. I kind of, it's the attitude of people seems to have changed really, in that people are like, oh wow, yeah, as if that was what they were looking for. That they kind of heard about it. And there was someone with the actual information, and they're like really pleased to kind of that you're there and that you've got that information. I've kind of sensed that more, recently that people are more like that with it. But I think I mean, my message really is like, don't worry about how many people you got, just do it, And the next lot, you can. Do the next lot now, Roger. The door dropping ones.
Oh, thanks, Ronnie. That you're a pal.
You can move on.
That's actually what happened with Declan Bowens. That's how he started, just on his own.
Yeah. And don't be frightened to start on your own, because otherwise it won't. That's what you got to do, because otherwise, no. Now this is door dropping, and now this is like.
So these are those cheesy grins that I warned you about.
The cheesy grins, yeah, that's it. I won't print a photo unless someone does a cheesy grin. We don't look miserable, do you? Put people off.
It's vegan cheesy grin.
Vegan cheesy grin, that, or hummus grin. This is something that it's possible to do in the UK. It's possible to do it in Ireland and other countries. Not so easy in the USA.
Here's a question about: is it in a public park? Sometimes your thing, Ronnie.
Yeah, it's events that are held in public parks. A lot of the events are held in public parks, like that eco event was, and some of the dog rescue shows are in public parks, and the carnival, the carnival events are held in public parks. Yeah, it's
But
not just going.
can you just set up on your own if you wanted to in a park?
I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure. They're always part of events. They're always part of events that are put on in the park.
Yeah.
So I think the event organizer gets permission from the local authority, because the parks come under the local authority.
Well, here's a question that, before I forget it, is that quite often towns, and not necessarily villages, I don't think, but towns certainly and cities, they'll often have almost like a designated place for NGOs to set up. So you could always check that out with your local council, or
I think if you're doing a stall in the street, and I don't know about other countries. I know like here in the UK, that it's important to ascertain that it's land that belongs to a local authority. If it's privately owned, then you'd have to get permission of the people that kind of own that land. And some of the shopping centres, even the outdoor ones, can be privately owned.
But sometimes they're okay though. They will allow you,
But sometimes they're allowed to. Sometimes they can be actually better than the local authority.
Yeah.
If you get to know the person that's in charge of it, and ask them. But with the local authority land, you never ask for permission. Never ask for permission, because technically it's probably in breach of their bylaws to do a stall, and so they'll either they may well say no, and then you can't really do it. Don't ask for permission, just do it.
Have you got public liability insurance, Ronnie?
Yeah, we do, because the reason we do that is not for street stalls. It's because some of these events that we do.
It's dead useful, to wave it in front of a copper's face. I
mean, public liability insurance. Ours is the one that we've got. If anyone's interested, in the UK in this, the one we've got is it costs about £85 a year, and we actually share it with another group, and we kind of pay half each.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, it's very expensive in Ireland. It's about 400 quid.
So this is one that's specifically kind of for community groups. So if anyone in the UK is interested, I'll put them in touch with the, with the people that do that. It is because some of these events that you do, they ask, like particularly, the dog rescue events, they ask for the public liability insurance if you've got that. So it's worth getting it, to be honest.
Yeah, well, we had to have it for our Temple Bar thing, because we had to have 8.5 million euros worth of insurance, and they said that if you had one staff member, you'd have to have I think 24 million euros, and so it was always like 350 euros a year. It's probably about 400 now. But the weird thing is, the only person who's ever tripped over our gazebo was a copper, and he just laughed.
But we don't for streets. Lots of groups do street stalls, and they haven't got liability insurance, because you don't get asked for it for a street stall, but you do get asked for it. You do have to provide it if you're doing some of these stalls.
What's the score? People might be thinking this. What's the score about your collection boxes? How does that work where you are?
If it's what it is, if it's like at an event, like one of the events in the parks, or like an actual event, right? Then you can have the collection box. If you're just doing a stall in the street, you just decide to set up a stall in the street, and what you do to do that is you have to find a place that's not where it's not causing an obstruction, like outside an empty shop, or we do some of our stalls up against, one of the local town hall will do the stall like against the kind of wall of the town hall facing out, because it's not a shop and stuff like that. We don't but if we were to have a collection box on the stall, then we could have problems, because if you're doing if it's classed as a street collection, you've got to have a permit.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's a technicality here, Ronnie. If you're holding your box and rattling it, that's a street collection. If it's just on your table, that's okay.
Well, that might be. I'm not sure what the case that is in the UK. That might be That might be the case in Ireland.
No, I think that's both.
I've had I know my mum-in-law actually got arrested and appeared in court for just having a collection box on her table.
Oh, right,
some years
okay.
ago. She was grassed up by a local hunt master who saw her stall.
Okay. Well, again, you've got that thing that the police
ironically,
unless they're forced to, right?
That same local hunt bloke was found dead at the bottom of a cliff in Devon. Not long after that. Nothing to do with me.
Okay. Graham's asking you, do they cover Ireland? I don't know what that's in relation to. So what's that about? Do you know what he's getting at?
I don't know whether it means public liability insurance, but it wouldn't, would it? It only covers ours. Only covers the UK.
Well, we can get public liability ourselves. So I don't. It might be something else, but Graham, maybe you can clarify the question.
Yeah. You see, but going back to the pictures, this is door dropping where you're just delivering leaflets through people's letterboxes of their houses. You can see, people in other countries may have different layouts, the frontages of houses. Here in the UK and in Ireland, they have letterboxes where the mail person puts the mail and put leaflets through. I always use a stick.
Could be a female male person,
or a female male person. It could be a male or a female. A female person. Yeah. But it's really important if you're doing that to have some. I use a wooden spoon to push the leaflet through because you get these dogs that lurk, waiting to bite people. And I've been bitten before I started doing it. I'd been bitten several times by dogs. On my hands had been bitten several times by dogs.
Well, it's your fault. You do look like a tasty snack, don't you?
Yeah. I kind of must be. Yeah, one had my whole hand. It was a big dog, had my whole hand in his mouth or her mouth. So I thought, no, use the stick. I've had the stick taken a couple of times by dogs. I've lost a couple of sticks where they've grabbed the stick and a load of growling the other side of the door. But
that'd be great. 3 hours later, they're trying to work out where this dog got this spoon from, and they go, "Well, there's nothing missing."
What's the dog doing with the spoon? Has the dog been trying to make dinner or something? Yeah, But so it's really, really important to do that, and it also makes it easier because you can get injured by the letterboxes. Some of the springs on them are like really sharp and stuff. And so
I tell you one that I don't like is the ones with almost like a kind of weird brush on the other side. It's like a that's right. And then you get ones right at the bottom of the door, and you get these ones that are like a weird. They're like, instead of being horizontal, they're vertical, and you get all sorts of, like, people seem to have letterboxes to deter anyone from putting anything through them. Yeah.
But
I'd like to compliment your volunteers here, Ronnie, because this woman here has got, I think, free sample tattooed on her arm there. Look,
free sample.
Well, it's certainly got the first 3 words of free anyway. So I'm assuming that means
freedom. I might say freedom.
Free
I'm
vegan
not really
cheese
sure.
Samples.
Yeah, it saves having it on a placard. Yeah.
I mean, presumably the woman's called Frida. Maybe, I don't know.
But you see, once again, none of those 3 people are active in our group anymore, for different reasons. The chap on the right's moved away, now lives in Wales. You see, so you've got to kind of be prepared for like people to comings and goings, people really. But the thing is to keep going yourself, saying, I'm going to keep going no matter who's with me, no matter who's not with me.
I think they were put off because you used to make them smile like that all the time.
Yeah. Well, you've got to show you're happy doing it, haven't you? Otherwise, it put people off if you look miserable.
And you're happy, it. Clap your hands.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you're doing a good job.
Should we go on?
Have we got any more? Oh, that's me.
You don't say. Now they're the shop.
Yeah, that's me doing it with my spoon. You see, I bought a load of cheap wooden spoons from a shop, and I've lost 2 of them, I think, to dogs, but I've still got a few left.
So which end do you stick through?
You stick the big end through.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah. You stick the big, because what I do is I kind of fold the leaflet around it and then stick it through. As I'm coming to the door, I fold the leaflet around it, stick it through.
Oh, you mean
some
at the
people
end?
put the leaflet up against the letterbox and poke it through, but
you do it over the top of it then?
Just fold it and put it through, like And some people have boxes on the wall, rather than the letterbox, which is easier.
You ever found any dogs in there?
Well, a little dog. It'd be amusing if there was you thought you were safe, but there was a tiny little dog in the box that had you.
Yeah,
Like,
I'll get that vegan bastard this time.
Yeah, I'll put a little dog in the box to get that vegan bloke that comes.
No, they're volunteers. I was thinking, you know, not any slavery going on.
Yeah.
Well, I think we ought to move past this picture. We've seen both ends of you now.
You seem like you've seen almost everything.
Right, let's move on.
Yeah, this is something we try and do every year. This
is a summer event, is it?
Yeah, summer event. Yeah. This is leading up to Christmas. It's leaflets. These are leaflets from Animal Aid about how people can have a compassionate Christmas, including going vegan, but also about, you know, buying stuff not tested on animals and all that kind of stuff. And we give those out in, you know, the town centre of our largest town. That's the town hall at the back that was having some work done on it. As you can see, somebody's got somebody doing something else. I think it looks like a load of poppies on there. They got a stall there, but we give hundreds of those out every year. I just shout out Christmas information and people take the leaflets basically.
Right.
But I had when I was doing this, I had a Mormon. There's Mormons sometimes patrol the town centre trying to pick on. They seem to look for people that are a bit vulnerable, to be honest. But like one of them come up to me and said,
"Can I patrol?"
Yeah, and said, "Can I talk to you about God or something?" I think he said. Was it Jesus? Do they believe in? I can't remember. It's God or Jesus. Can I talk to you about God? And I said, well, no. I said,
God or Jesus? They're
the same person, aren't they? Apparently. And I said, no. I said, I don't believe in imaginary beings. And he come back to me. He said, yeah, but so why are you dressed as one? You see. And I thought that was really. I thought it was a Mormon with a sense of humour. You know.
You know Dave Allen's joke about, he was saying that when he was a kid, he used to think it was the Father, the Son, and into the Holy goes.
I know. Yeah. There's three, isn't there? There's three persons in the one. Because I had the misfortune of being brought up as a Catholic. Well, until I rejected it at the age of about 13 and refused to go to mass anymore.
I'm surprised you stuck with it so long. But there you go.
Well, it was only because I was little. I was very small, so I was easily intimidated.
So this town hall, is that the damage you've caused by leaning on it for 5 years?
That's the damage our stall caused to the town hall. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that might be the last of yours, I think, Ronnie.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So let's have a look at
yours now. Yeah.
Now, people. So this is Vegan Street, and this was last Sunday. So there's one shower in the middle, which is where the you got some umbrellas coming up, but generally speaking, it was a pretty good day. And anyway, there is an overhang above here. It's always dry because there's a big overhang, and usually the wind comes from the back all the time. So generally speaking, we don't have too much of a wind problem, which is unusual for vegans to say, of course. So that's pretty good. Now, again, would you be able to on the street have things like the badges and that, Ronnie?
To sell stuff, I think you could have problems selling stuff on the street.
No, that's the thing, though. You don't sell it. What you do is you've got a big sign saying donation.
Right? Oh, yeah. I think if you did, I think if you did that, it kind of, I don't know. It depends if they thought that you were collecting. I'm not quite sure what the law over here would be about that, to be honest.
Yeah, because it's very kind of lax here in that sense, really. Yeah, Deb, we do call it Vegan Street, and as you can see, it's quite long. If you see our TikTok lives, which we've transferred onto YouTube, you'll kind of get the size of the event, because I think geographically this might be the biggest vegan outreach event, or at least one of them in the world. I think because it's really, really big. It's it takes you a long time to actually walk past all of it, really.
So by the time someone's walked past all of that, they get to the end of it, they're vegan.
They are. They might be. Yeah, they start off as a speciesist, and they ended up being a militant vegan by the end of it. Yeah.
By the time they got to the end, yeah. Yeah.
Right, so that's another shot of it. So you can kind of start to see a little bit of the size of it. So again, so the big banners are very kind of eye-catching, and the good thing about that is that you can see them from the buses and the trams and stuff. And so we did a calculation, and we worked out, because it's there for 5 hours, this event, 1 to 6. We work out that more than 13,000 people pass by, and that's just on foot. You know, and so that's pretty good in terms of footfall. The great thing about it, it's like a form of advertising. If this wasn't there on a Sunday, then most of those 13,000 people would never think of the word vegan that day. You know, whereas even if they just see the word vegan, it might go, yeah, is it on every week? Yeah, it's every week. Indeed, it is.
Yeah.
We've got a slimmed down version next week because Declan, who's got the sanctuary, is away. So that's Declan Bowens there. So he's got a sanctuary, which has probably got the coolest name for a sanctuary. If I do that, you can see there it's got Back into Daylight Animal Sanctuary, which is a great title, I always think, for a sanctuary, because I think they started by, there was a problem in Ireland when they moved from the battery cages to the so-called enriched battery cages. The Irish farmers were very slow to do it, and they ended up getting fined by the EU and everything. And then eventually a few farmers said, okay, well, if you vegans can get down here and take them before we kill them, then you can have them, type of thing. And then the weird thing about that is that some of them then stopped doing that because the birds were in such bad state they didn't want anybody to see them. They preferred to have them killed, yeah. So, but that's how Declan started. And the top whack about last year, I think he had about 650 residents, and now there's just shy of 500 now, because it's mainly farmed animals. That means there's quite a lot of mortality rate, sadly, because a lot of the other animals who arrive are in a pretty bad state. They sometimes have to go into intensive care and stuff. So he's got a group called Vigo, Vegan Education on the Go, and also the Sanctuary. And the little dragon is trying to eat one of Andy's books there, as you can see. So
yeah, that's great. I mean, we gave out a few of Andy, or I did, gave out a few of Andy's booklets on the stall I did on Sunday. They were, sort of young, people with young children. They were very keen to take them.
Yeah, it's a great book because it's like it's a stereotypical children's book because they have to be, which means it's based on repetition, So
it's really good. It's a really good book. People were really keen to take that book.
Highly recommended. We've got some commentary from the father of the dragon here, little dragon, little bollocks, more like. Now that's not as rude in Ireland as it is in Britain, by the way, just to let you know.
No, probably not. Well, a lot of swear words aren't as rude in Ireland, are they, as they are over here?
It's a good job because they produce about 4 times the rate of them. So
yeah.
So there is that. So this was a new innovation for this week. So some new posters.
Because they're all ones you've made, aren't they? Those.
Yeah. Again, you can be very kind of DIY about it, and it's not a problem at all. That's the thing for people to think. Oh, that it's got to look.
You can find all sorts of stuff on the internet that you can use for images. That's what I do, and put stuff together. And often the programs for doing it are free. But I think Declan's got he's got an A3 printer, hasn't he? Is that right?
An A3 printer. Yeah, we were very lucky because I got an A4, he got an A3. Yeah, and we had this deal where we got the ink free, and it was amazing. So for about 4 years, we had totally free ink. So it was unlimited printing. It was absolutely amazing. Yeah, because obviously, the ink is the expensive part of it.
Yes. Yeah.
This is a new innovation for the last week as well. So the vegan group, which is Graham and Georgie and Ted and Sophie, they put together these scans. And so if you scan the top one, you end up, and basically nowadays with smartphones, basically means that you open your camera and just point your camera at the scan, and then Andy's film starts playing. That's the top one. And then on the bottom one, you do the same, and Andy's website opens up.
Yeah.
So that's a really good thing. The scanning idea might be quite good. We used to do scanning in Temple Bar Square because we used to have like a digital where all the vegan friendly restaurants were in Ireland at one point. But it's a bit of a pain in the ass to keep them up to date, to be quite honest. But there you go. Don't know what this likely lot is. So again, though, you see, these are our the cheese samples that you've got.
Yeah.
But also the badges, which for donations, and then there's also fridge magnets.
Yeah,
and other bits and pieces, you know.
Yeah, because you're in a situation where I suppose you kind of lost some volunteers, but now more people have come along.
Yeah, we've got a second generation.
Yeah, and I'm kind of hoping that I'm sort of hoping that I'm hoping that will happen locally. We've still got a few people locally that do the door dropping and stuff. You know, we've got a little team of door droppers.
That's another thing, though. You know what Graham's saying here is that you should have a little bit of fun. First of all, you should prove the fact that vegans have got a sense of humor. But here you can see there that little green thing. That's a little diddy wheelie bin, right? Just behind the cheese. You see that?
Oh yes, I can see that.
Yeah. And so, you know, basically it's a health and safety thing in a way, because when people start taking the samples, you pick up the bin and say, oh, that goes in there, and then you can crack a joke and say, well, this is this is the smallest wheelie bin in Dublin and all that, and it kind of breaks the ice with people, and so it's always pretty good. You make sure that their sticks don't get thrown all over the place and stuff.
Yes. And I think the kind of what you've shown there, although you know that's the centre of a big city. Well, I mean, what's the population of Dublin? It's a few million, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure Graham will know more than me, but I mean, I think 2/3.
I think the population
are there. Yeah,
isn't the population of Dublin the same as the population of the whole of the rest of Ireland, or something like that?
No, I think it might be more. I think
might be more. Yeah.
I think there's 2/3 of people.
So it's a big city, and you're kind of, but the difference between what you're doing and what happens in the, in the middle, in the center of most big cities is kind of two things that are different to what you're doing. You're doing something other than the Cube of Truth and stuff like that, aren't you? And secondly, you're doing it. It's happening this is happening every weekend, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, we used to do it 3 times because we used to do it 3 hours on a Wednesday and 3 hours on a Thursday, but that's not started again. So we used to do altogether 11 hours a week, and we did that for about 4 years or so. Okay, I think that might be all right. So this is our version of the door dropping. So we tend to use Go Vegan World leaflets.
That's a very small. That's a very small letterbox there, isn't it, Roger?
I think you might be in the distance there, Ronnie.
Is it very small, or is it in the distance?
Yeah, that's the Father Ted letterbox. That is.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd have to fold the leaflet right up into a little tiny sliver.
Okay, it's about 1.5.
About 1.5 million in all of Dublin. Yeah.
And there's what is there? 3 million then? Is it? I thought it was 2/3. I might be wrong then about that.
I mean, I ideally, what would be a good situation over there, as indeed it would be here in England as well, is for, first of all, with regard to Dublin, to have people doing stuff in the suburbs. Maybe if people live in the suburbs and they're coming into Dublin to do the big event in the centre, to think about what can they do in the suburbs where they live, even if that's just door dropping. And secondly, for groups to arise in the other.
Well, I door drop, and that picture of the door dropping is not in the centre of Dublin. No. I mean,
it's going to be residential. I mean, that's kind of how we want to see things. Of course, it's bound to start with groups in the centres of big cities. That's bound to be how it kind of starts off, but it's kind of how it can develop from there.
What is he getting at there? I'll have you know. I mean, look at this. On this picture here, you've got see see Graham there. He's obviously trying. He's trying his you know, what is it, strawberry jam and thing there. You can see on his face what he makes of it. Yeah, so that's right.
I think the other thing to talk about as well, and I don't know whether you've experienced that, is that if you're kind of someone who's an organizer or an instigator of a group, there's times when you're going to have to kind of deal with problems that arise between members of that group, you know, where people fall out, and you know that it's really important to kind of.
Are you saying that vegans ever fall out, Ronnie?
When do they not fall out? But like that kind of does happen. You know, if you're someone saying, right, you know, I'm kind of instigating things, I'm getting people together, and you have a group of people, then one thing that you're gonna probably almost certainly have to deal with at some stage is that people will fall out, you know, one with the other. I think diplomacy is a very important thing. It's important to be, you know, diplomatic yourself with regard to other people. But that's something that does happen. I mean, in our group, we've had several fallouts between people, and people saying, well, I'm not going to be in the group if that other person's in the group. And you get that kind of stuff happening, which is like kind of, you know, crazy really, because it's all about doing stuff for the animals, isn't it? You know.
Well, it's more than that though, because you do get some dodgy characters who you shouldn't work with. So you know.
Yeah. Well, yes, but you see, where people won't even do stuff in relation to the group, they don't need to work with that other person. They could still do stuff, but that kind of they don't. You know, and you kind of get that. You get that kind of situation arising.
Yeah, it depends what you talk about, but I mean, you know, obviously, if you've got things like sexual harassment.
Yeah, no, I'm not really talking about things like that. I'm just talking about like someone's had some kind of personal dispute over something. You know? Yeah, I mean, obviously, you wouldn't want somebody in a group that sexually harassed other people because it, you know, for various reasons. But I mean, one of the reasons would be because, you know, who's going to want to be part of that group if there's a sexual harasser involved, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, you can extend that to a lot of people. You know, people might have you know, slightly dodgy racist.
Yeah, well, anyone with
anything like that.
They're not. They don't. But where we've had disputes in our group hasn't involved anything like that. I mean, one of them involved COVID, where people had different views about COVID. You know, there was loads of fallouts over COVID and the vaccine and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, right, okay.
And one of them was over that. And I think a lot of people have probably experienced that. It was a very, very divisive thing. And so you kind of, yeah. And so I think you've got a kind of, you know, it's really important that we have people that say, right, I'm going to be, I mean, I coined the term golden vegans for these people, you know, people that will say, right, I'm going to instigate outreach in my local area. You know, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to get whoever I can amongst local vegans to join me. I'm going to do it anyway. You know, and those are the golden people we need everywhere, you know, because they're like really, really important part of like achieving animal liberation. And so, you know, you are gonna have problems with other people. You are gonna have problems with people falling out. That's humans. But
so what does a silver vegan mean then, Ron?
Well, a silver vegan is probably the ones that kind of help the golden.
The old one. That would be the old one.
Yeah, and then there's who's the bronze vegan and the
vegan.
golden the one that, you know, and it's really important that and I think you've kind of got to keep going, despite like, you know, people come and go. You know, the history of my life has been of people coming and going all the time from the movement. You know. But you've got to soldier on. You've got to soldier on. You know, you've got to think, well, I'm going to soldier on no matter what. You know, and I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. You know, spreading the vegan message kind of locally. I'm going to.
One thing we shouldn't do is keep going on over 2 hours, and we're coming up to it. So, do you want to make a final statement, and we'll go?
Well, my final statement is, I mean, this is like CVO, Community Vegan Outreach. You know, the importance of people doing what they can to sort of veganize their own local area, because I think one very important aspect of this as well is the political one. Is that, you know, often people think that kind of, you know, where's political power located. Like kind of, people in the UK will think it's Westminster. People in Ireland think, in the Republic think it's in the Dáil, won't they? People in the USA will think it's the Senate, et cetera, et cetera. But it's actually not. Where political power comes from is from local areas, because that's where the political representatives are elected, and depending on the views of those representatives, that affects how a government is going to behave. And so if it's not just about kind of changing people as consumers in terms of educating them to become vegan. It's also about changing the culture. It's changing how people vote, how they behave politically as well. It's about the more vegans we have, the more vegan politicians we have, the more people who vote for them. So when I talk about veganizing an area, I'm not just talking about changing how those people behave as consumers. I'm talking about changing the whole way those people view the world, how they behave politically as well, and so it's so having this focus locally is like really, really important in lots of different ways. And so we all need to think about what we can do in our local. Go into the big city and join other vegans in a big event every so often. There's nothing wrong with that, but like it's really important to think about what we can do locally, and to
I mean, the thing is, the real thing is just to think outside the box, really, because we have created our own kind of box or our own cubes.
Yeah, I think often people,
we need to think outside of the cube, maybe.
I think a lot of people think vegan outreach is the cube of truth, or it's Earthlings, or it's it's other things like that. And yeah, those things have made a really important contribution to outreach. I don't dispute that. I'm not against anyone doing those things or being involved in those things, but we need a lot more than that. We need a whole variety of different forms of spreading the message, which we've kind of illustrated today. And a lot of those types of spreading the message are more suited to like a locality. Like I live in the village. You couldn't have a street stall in our village. There's nowhere to hold it, but we've door dropped the whole village kind of many times with leaflets promoting veganism. We've had a couple of events promoting veganism, or where veganism was promoted at our local like our local kind of community centre place as well. So there are places where you can't do those type of actions anyway with screens and stuff, and so we need to think about lots of other ways that we can spread the message and utilize all of them. That's what I'd say to people. Just think what I can do locally. Think what you can do as an individual as well. Take leaflets with you. Leave them in public places. Leave them in public transport. Think about
how can I litter as we go.
How can I veganize my local area, and how can I encourage other vegans in my local area to join me in veganizing my local area? And I think if all vegans were to think that, we'd kind of we'd be kind of really.
We'd have a vegan army out there every week.
Yeah. We need a vegan army of education, don't we? We need a vegan army of educators. That's what we need. You need to think of it like that, and that we can all play our part, because like a lot of people have busy lives. They've got a lot of other things on their plate. But when you're talking about community outreach, there's room for people there's a room for those people that have only got a small amount of time. Even if you've got half an hour spare time a week, in half an hour you can deliver 50 leaflets, and it all adds up.
Well, that's what we're into our third hour, so we ought to wrap this up. I just want to say to Paul, take care, mate. So there is probably some help if you need it now.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody. So thanks so much for sticking with us. It's been a long one, and also a short one with Ronnie's bum on show.
Well, there was an added bonus, wasn't there, on this show?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure if that's quite the phraseology to use,
but next week we'll be back with because we're kind of alternating,
doing the news thing again.
We're all in the show with the news show, so we're back with another news show, talking about probably about three or four items of like recent
the new
news
show
vegans.
Yeah.
Haven't decided on what yet, but we will do.
I picked up some lovely handmade badges at the store.
Oh, that looks good.
Yeah, that's
I
quite
like
good.
that.
Yeah. Again, very kind of simple and stuff, which is quite good. Anyway, we shall be back next week, folks. Thanks very much for sticking with us, and we shall be back, providing, of course, Ronnie.
We are still alive.